Suns done with the Clippers. Booker had 47. Wow, it's a fast break. KD had 31. First duo to score 25 or more to start a postseason since Kobe and Shaq. Here are KD and Booker after the game.
It was spiritual. Like, I don't scream too much in the games no more as I got older, but when we hit that three on the top of the key, I felt the energy, and I know everybody in our crowd felt it, so we feed off of his aggression.
Hard to put the words, somebody that I followed, for a very long time before we developed a personal relationship, so, to even be sitting up here with him right now is kind of surreal. But, just competing at the highest level, iron sharpens iron.
Oh, I like that. That's how I feel sitting next to you every day. Are you surprised Booker outplayed KD?
I think Nick worded this question. Outplayed, like they're competing against each other. He's trying to so little.
Asked for this question.
No, but the outplayed. Why outplayed? They're teammates. You think Booker's sitting there? I outplayed Kevin Durant. No, they are teammates. They both were great. So I think Nick's trying to sow a little discord between Book and KD.
Nick, it was you.
Outplayed.
In
That's
the
not
morning.
the word outplayed.
Yeah.
I went along with it because I knew I could answer it.
Okay.
But no, I don't like outplayed because they're teammates
Then
and they
tell
work
us that
together.
at 10.
All
Okay,
right,
but
no,
go ahead.
it's
Go
fine.
ahead.
But here's the deal. No, I'm not surprised because the defense, and you see this, Nick, is focused on stopping Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Like, if there's one, you got to pick your poison, obviously. We're going to pick the poison of let's let D-Book do it if we have to have one do it, and let's try to stop Kevin Durant. This is what Durant benefited from in Golden State when the defense was geared towards stopping Steph. Booker has been phenomenal with Kevin Durant. And I'm not just talking about this series where he averaged 40 points in the last 4 games, but since Kevin Durant got there, look at these numbers for Devin Booker in the 13 games they played together.
Pretty good.
32 points up from 28. Obviously, he was great before. The shooting percentage, the three-point percentage, because when Durant wasn't there, he's the one seeing the double team.
Of course.
Chris Paul's not the threat he used to be. Ayton obviously isn't a threat like that. So the defense, he was seeing a lot of double teams. Now he's like, oh my gosh, I'm a kid in a candy store. I'm getting single coverage, and no one can stop me.
Love it.
So Devin Booker's doing this thing, and I like it.
Listen, Booker was sensational. He's arguably been the best player across the league in the first round. De'Aaron Fox be on that list. There's a few other guys.
Steph's been great.
Steph's would be on that list, no doubt about it. Jimmy Butler, clearly, but he's on the short list. I am a little surprised at the passivity of Kevin Durant at some points in these games. And I think it is because it's been working and Booker's been cooking. But yesterday, there were times where it looked like he was in a glorified Harrison Barnes on the Warriors role. Like, hey, I'm a big stretch 4 who can stand in the corner and the defense has to respect. Like, no, that's Kevin Durant, one of the 3 greatest scoring forwards in the history of the league. And it'd be one thing if they were just rolling, which they were in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, when a 20-point lead becomes a 2-point lead, I was surprised they didn't go to Durant more.
But don't you think that's also not just last night? At times, just since he's been there, but particularly in this series,
we saw in the first game he took 15 shots in 45 minutes. And here is my other concern for Phoenix, unrelated to the minutes. The minutes thing to me is insane, but at least they got done with the series in 5, so that maybe evens it out a bit. This level of production, I know won't sustain. They are right now, the 2 of them, averaging 65 points on 55, 45, 90 splits. Here is the best duos ever that have ever won a title, scoring-wise. Most points. No one's ever even averaged 60. And so water will find its level to a degree. Go ahead, Wiles.
Why don't you think that those guys, like, how far is it going to go down? Would you be okay if they scored 60?
I don't know. Here's what I know. They're not Shaq and Kobe.
I mean, they're pretty
Shaq
good.
and Kobe, that was a lot of that's. See, Shaq and Kobe was in a defensive era. that now that they didn't shoot, neither of those guys, obviously Shaq didn't shoot threes, Kobe didn't shoot a ton of threes. I just think this era, it's easier to score.
So,
these are two superb mid-range shooters, and they're challenging you to shoot the mid-range.
But I want to make sure people understand what that stat is. Those aren't the highest scoring duos ever in the playoffs. They're the highest scoring duos ever that won a title.
Okay.
And so my point is, teams that rely this heavily on two guys to do the scoring, it typically doesn't work out. When it has worked out, they have been either, you look at it, like guys that are very different players like Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, and AD. The Warriors, that 2017 Warriors we consider the most talented team of all time. Or apex Michael Jordan, right? And so there are, to me, a lot of warning signs for a team despite having won 4-1 because of who they were playing, because of the minutes, and because they are right now getting what I think is unsustainably great play by their top two guys.
Okay. Russ came back to earth last night. He had 14 points. He did have 8 rebounds and 8 assists. After the game, he talked about how much he loved being with the Clippers. Take a listen.
I love it here. I love the people, just the fans overall, just the embracement of not just me, but my family and close friends, and just the ability to be able to go out and compete. I know it was end of the year and a lot of different things happened, but I'm grateful, and I definitely love being here. As far as making a decision, I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Do you expect Russ to be on the Clippers?
I do. I think it's the best place for him. I don't think there's going to be a ton of teams going after him, and certainly not at the money he's used to making. He's a max player for the last several contracts. He's not getting that. Now, Miami, if they want to go after him because they have a talent deficit, might be interesting. They don't really have great shooting. They'd want to put shooting around it, so I don't even know if they make sense. But Washington, been there, done that. I get it. They just kind of stay in that mediocre place, so they maybe wouldn't be interested. But Nick, I don't know where he goes, and I know they can only pay him about $4 million, $3.8 million next year, but he's made nearly $350 million in his career. He's at home in Los Angeles. Paul George loves him. Now, Kawhi, who knows when he'll be back? You can't count on me. You can count on Paul George to some degree. I mean, okay, I'll give you that. That's an overstatement. But George will be there next year. We know that. He loves Russ. He's comfortable. They kind of need Russ. I think you put up numbers there, and they can make the playoffs.
I don't have a lot of context for guys taking huge discounts not to compete for a championship. Kawhi Leonard, the news today is he has a torn MCL, right? That's the news that we saw today.
No, meniscus.
Meniscus, pardon me. Thank you. When I said it, I knew it was wrong. Thank you for that. A torn meniscus in the same knee that he had the torn ACL, and the same leg that he had the tendinopathy that he was dealing with San Antonio. They did everything they could to get him to the finish line this year, and he lasted one playoff game healthy because they're saying he hurt himself in Game 1 and played through it in Game 2. So that is, without a fully functional Kawhi Leonard, this Clippers team is not even close to a championship contender.
Yeah, that window's closed.
The window's closed. So now we're saying to Russ, play for 7% of what you made this year for a team that no one thinks is going to win the title. I don't think that's realistic.
What's the option, though?
I have to see how so many things shake out. To me, I don't have you're right. Right now, this moment, I don't have the exact spot. But do I think he's going to play? Because, again, it's just so people understand. The most the Clippers are allowed to offer him is $3.8 million. Yeah, that, to me, is just, it's not realistic. I'm not saying it's not the best place for him, and Paul George loved him, and all those reasons. I just don't think it's realistic.
The money is, it's easy to talk about someone else's money and happiness.
Yeah.
But what did he make, 47 with the Lakers?
Yeah.
He was miserable. So it sounds silly, but
you're right.
It's a $43 million difference. Like, is that worth your happiness? Like, it's a big price tag.
He's made $339 million in his
But don't you think there's a part of that he would, that there is a pride factor of?
But I think
I showed that I can still
If you're in the middle of your career, sure. even he understands, even though he may feel like his game hasn't declined, he understands. I mean, he's played 14 years, so he's toward the end. Look at Carmelo Anthony. I mean, he was humbled and came back for very little money on teams that weren't going to win it. So I hope he's smart enough to do that. You know, I think he is.
Real quick, do we all agree that these last 10 days, his stock is the highest it's been in 2 years?
Yeah.
Well,
Since he went to
okay,
the
so
Lakers.
that's another part of it.
But people still know.
I understand he was 3 for 18 last night. He was 3 for 19 in game 1. But for the first time in 2 years, I think you were like, oh, in the right circumstances, with the right coach, with the right spacing around him, with motivation, he can be helpful. And
But
now
young teams, a lot of bad teams, most of the teams that have cap space are bad. They got young players that they want to give room to grow to. I don't think that's the place for Russ. You know what I'm saying? The Clippers is the perfect spot for him.
Memphis off the bench, backing up Ja. There's some places that might want a veteran that
But
might.
he's going to make a little money.
Yeah, but
they
more
could
than
win. They'd
more
have
than
more
$3.5
chance to
million
win.
bucks and a better chance of winning a title. I'm just saying, for that money and that title chance, I don't think he's bad.
They don't
Even
have
if
great
he's the best.
shooting either.
That's a good point. So maybe that's not a good fit. Again,
That was an embarrassing take at the end there.
what? No,
He said Memphis and he bailed out on